Welcome back to episode 68 of the P S Gilmore Story, and we're still in St. Louis, but we're looking specifically at 1892 and Gilmore's 100 musicians. Here's an advertisement from 1889, a few years before, when he celebrated the 20th anniversary of the 1869 National Peace Jubilee, the Great Peace Jubilee as it's called here. So we're going to be looking at the 100 musicians and why. Because these were, I suppose, an invention, a creation of Gilmore himself. And before we do that, we have to look at, for instance, what is the job of a conductor. Here's something Gilmore wrote on one of his programs. The string orchestra and the military band are the two and only musical organizations which can produce the entire repertoire of instrumental compositions in their own effective form. They may be termed as a masculine and feminine. Feminine would be an orchestra and masculine would be the actual band. Here's an interview from Frank Gahan, who was basically the manager of the exposition. He said, "People will not realize the full meaning of this change until they hear the band this season. I can tell you some of the results achieved by it. One is that you will now find in Gilmore's band a player for every modern musical instrument known to musicians and possible to be utilized in a band. The power attained would be incredible." You can read that a little bit further on your own. Here's the 100-piece band, military band, with Gilmore standing on the podium there in Madison Square Gardens in June of 1892. And we're going to be looking briefly at the instrumentation of Gilmore's 100. You must remember that from Gilmore's perspective, a conductor, basically, you didn't have to tell a musician, obviously, what to play and so on. The musicians knew very well how to play their own instruments. They were all soloists. They were all the best available musicians in the world at that stage. What the conductor did was basically guided them along that set of code, which we call a score, which tells the musician what they have to play, how they have to play, when they have to play, how they have to play. For instance, is helped and assisted by the movement of that stick, the baton of the conductor, as he or she lifts it or brings it down, and guides the musician to be part of this musical organization. But in Gilmore's mind, that musical organization was a gigantic instrument in itself. And Gilmore had developed this, and it's called here Gilmore's 100, the greatest band in the world. 4 concerts daily, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 7 to 8, and 9 to 10. Here's 4 concert programs from the 1892 season. 3 of them have P S Gilmore himself as director, and the last one on the right, which is now called the Columbus Tour officially, has his successor D.W. Reeves as the conductor. The instrumentation was incredible. You can quickly look down through this. There was 4 bassoons, 4 oboes, I think approximately 10 saxophones, horns galore, cornets, E-flat, and so on and so forth there on the right hand side. The trumpets, 4 trumpets. the sound must have been incredible. I showed you this in one of the previous documentaries, a band ticket which was owned by this gentleman, signed Frank Gross. He's number 79 up on the top left-hand corner. And this just gives you an idea of the exceptional attention to detail that they had. This was his ticket to get entry to the band enclosure for rehearsals or whatever. They didn't have scanning machines back then. And each of those 100 musicians had a number. Here you see over on the right hand side 52, 53 and 54 refer to three different members of the saxophone ensemble. Number 79 was Frank Gross, and all we have to do is look down through the list and we see F.A. Gross beside 79, and he was an E-flat alto horn in that band. It was a very close group of men. Very, very, there were factions in it. There were friendships in it, friendships that lasted for a lifetime. But they were all brought together by Gilmore. And honestly, I can't find too many cases of anyone complaining about Gilmore. He seems to have been admired. I'm sure that he was not perfect, but it gives you, he was obviously very good at man management. And here is an advertisement for St. Louis, the fall festivals. Don't forget the orphans, he's in this advertisement. And orphans were something that annually Gilmore was very involved with the Emerald Ball in New York each year to fund the orphans of New York. Here is a note from Gilmore himself. This is the first time in the history of music, the history of the nations, the history of the world, that a band of 100 first-class musicians, thoroughly organized and equipped, has ever made a tour of any country. This achievement, which marks an epoch in the progress of music in America, is not the work of a day, but the result of patient labor in the field of music for 40 years. His career was actually 43 years. And it emphasizes it started with a little band of 16 pieces. And then we got the news. Well, we didn't get the news, but the people back then in 1892 got the news. The great bandmaster passes away. He expires of heart failure at Lindell Hotel. His last words were, "I'm feeling a bit better." Last sacraments of the Catholic Church administered to him. And so that would be how the story would end, but he wouldn't be forgotten, at least for a good period of time after he died. He had been the greatest bandmaster of the 19th century, bar none. He had been the greatest conductor of the 19th century, bar none. He had engineered the greatest concerts, the innovations that would be followed by other bandmasters later on. We'll be back next week with more of this story, and so click subscribe and like, and thank you very much for your time. Bye now.